Okay, so hey guys, and welcome back to another Access 72 video. In today's video, I'm going to be doing my prediction for the Makhachev versus Volkanovski fight. If you're new around here though and you haven't subscribed, please do so. Like the video if you're doing a live video, and let's get straight into it. So, going into the fight, Volkanovski is 25-1 with 12 KOs and 3 submissions, and Makhachev is 23-1 with 4 KOs and 11 submissions. This fight is for the lightweight belt and for pound number 1. So currently, Makhachev's lightweight champion and Volkanovski is pound for pound number 1. Volkanovski's last fight was a win via unanimous decision versus Holloway, and Makhachev's last fight was a win via submission in round 2 versus Oliveira. Both very big victories. Makhachev's arguably bigger because it was him winning the title for the first time, but Volkanovski's equally as big and also a very dominant performance for both fighters as well. Volkanovski has the longest win streak in the UFC, being 12. Also on this card is Rodriguez versus Emmett, which I think Emmett will win via KO in round 3. I think it'd be relatively convincing for Emmett. I think Emmett's power is something that is very impressive, and I think he wants it more. He's been calling out for these fights for a long time now, this high level opposition, and he's finally getting one, and I feel like he's going to thrive and be able to get a victory relatively convincingly. Going back to the Makhachev-Volkanovski fight, this fight is probably the most excited I've been for a fight in a long time. I mean, it's probably the biggest fight that they've had, arguably, maybe ever. I mean, maybe not ever, but still, like, it's in the last maybe decade or century or whatever. I don't know what the right terminology is, but it's a very big fight, and I mean, both fighters only ever lost once in their careers. Pound for pound, lightweight belt, everything's on the line. The UFC longest win streak in Volkanovski, everything's going on, and it's a huge fight. I'm very much looking forward to it. Attribute-wise, Volkanovski is a fast, patient, well-conditioned, accurate and powerful fighter who is physically strong and will invite you in and is used to fighting bigger oppositions because he is the smaller guy, but his strength is crazy. The way that he can like grapple onto you and throw you about the ring, even just mainly on your feet, but he did it against Holloway, and it was crazy how much physical strength he's got. And I mean, that patience, he's a slow starter, that could possibly pay into Makhachev's favour because he is more of a fast starter, but the patience what Volkanovski has and the power in his striking is just crazy. It's something that I haven't seen in a long time in especially a fighter at this kind of weight class, and it's very impressive. Makhachev though is a very fast fighter with great pressure and is a quick starter and is very impressive on the ground, but is also underrated on his feet, throwing big left hooks. That's something that Volkanovski's going to have to definitely watch out for. He's not just going to have to watch out for the takedowns, but he's also going to have to watch out for the big throws that he's gonna throw. And I mean, Makhachev's, from what I saw against Oliveira, his takedowns aren't conventional. He's not going to go in and shoot for your legs. He's going to try trip you up or do something like that. But as soon as he gets you on the ground, the pressure he's going to put on you is crazy. And so overall, he's a very well-rounded fighter. And I mean, he might not be as good as a striker as what Volkanovski is, but on the ground, he is he's most definitely, I'd say, attribute-wise better. But that's not saying Volkanovski's bad on the ground. I'm just saying that Makhachev is more the experienced fighter on the ground. I mean, that's also shown through the fact that he's seemingly Khabib's kind of prodigy in a way, and he's been kind of learnt a lot of what he knows from him, and it's shown from the way he fights. It's very much similar to what a Khabib used to fight like. Volkanovski has less experience on the ground, like I mentioned, and is moving up a weight division, so his power might not be as effective. Will be interesting to see how that kind of fares, because I mean, obviously in the weight division he normally thrives in, his power is very impressive, and it's something that helps him get through a lot of fights. I mean, what he did against the Korean Zombie was crazy, and nobody's really ever done that against him before. But it'd be interesting to see if that kind of power can step up with him, and if Makhachev's gonna even let him hit him, to be honest. But we'll have to wait and see how that kind of fares. This is Makhachev's toughest test though, and he is less experienced, yet as shown for his last fight, that being this being his first title defense, it shows he's less experienced. But he isn't afraid to go against anybody. I mean, the fact that he stepped in against Charles Oliveira at the time where he was probably one of the most feared opposition in the whole of the UFC, nobody wanted to fight him. He was on a crazy run, submitting everybody around him, and Makhachev just kind of got him out there in round two, and it was so surprising, and just to go from that to straight away take on this big fight against Volkanovski, it's crazy, and it shows that he clearly isn't fearful of anybody, and to fight in Volkanovski's hometown as well of Perth, and yeah, it's crazy, and you got to respect that for a fighter to just not really care about that kind of thing and just go out there and try and prove himself. Volkanovski, from what I believe, is the close favourite for this fight, but that's because he is, of course, pound for pound number one. And I think that Makhachev will win via submission in round three. I think the earlier 2-3 rounds will be Makhachev's. Maybe the third round might be a bit more competitive because Volkanovski might be wanting to come into it a bit more, but I think if he's going to come into it a bit more, he might overcommit or might do something a little bit off, and I think Makhachev will be able to punish that and be able to get a submission in round three. It could go either way, this fight. It's so kind of up in the air, but I'm going to lean towards Makhachev for this one. But to be fair, this fight, yes, it is an amazing fight and definitely is something that I'm glad to see happening. But for the UFC, where do they go from here? If he wins this one, then you kind of have to keep giving him the big fights. But who's really left to give him? Because Oliveira beat everybody in the lightweight division. Volkanovski's beaten everybody in the featherweight division. And so who's really left if he's beaten both Volkanovski and Oliveira? I mean, he could go against Volkanovski, come down in the weight class and go and try for featherweight belt. He could possibly do that. He could try fight Oliveira again if Oliveira does beat, I believe, Dariush. He's probably going to be fighting from the scenes of it. Or, I mean, if he wants to go up and try and go for another belt, he could go for the welterweight belt and possibly fight the winner of Usman versus Edwards, which would be also a crazy fight. But it wouldn't surprise me if that happens from the way that things are going. It could possibly happen. But, I mean, that's something for a bit further along down the line. For the moment, though, my prediction is Makhachev to win. And yeah, that is it for today's video. I hope you did enjoy. Like the video if you did, like the video, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.